Thank you all for being here, and my name is Tony Hwang. I'm a state representative for the 134th District in the Connecticut General Assembly. We're having this meeting, and I'll serve as a moderator and introduce our speakers. The point of the matter is, the month of March is National Problem Gambling Awareness Month. And I think gambling is one of those most insidious of addictions and afflictions in our community that just doesn't get enough attention. I think one of the biggest premises with people is the fact that they don't gamble and therefore it does not impact them. But unfortunately, it does impact us, not only from a standpoint of personal lives being impacted, but also in regards to the economics that impact us all. I'm going to begin this by introducing Congressman Bob Steele. Bob Steele was the congressman in the 2nd Congressional District, which encompassed both of the casinos, Foxwoods and Mohegan Sun. And he has seen the growth and proliferation, and more than anything else, he has seen the impact over 25 years of gambling in Connecticut, particularly in southeastern Connecticut. And I'd like to take a moment, Congressman Bob Steele, and he'll talk a little bit about the history and again, the impact of gambling in southeastern Connecticut. Congressman Steele.
Well, thank you very much, Tony. And I want to say, first of all, that I am very pleased to be here with these 3 distinguished co-speakers. Senator McKinney has been the unquestioned leader in the state legislature, speaking out on gambling issues and opposing the increase and the expansion of casino-type gambling in Connecticut. And I think we're very, very fortunate to have someone of his ability and his position in the state to have assumed that leadership. Tony Hwang has increasingly become the leader in the State House of Representatives in the General Assembly on this issue. And Mary Drexler is one of the most courageous women, one of the most courageous people in the state of Connecticut. She is the executive director, of course, of the Connecticut Council on Problem Gambling, and I think it's important that you know that the funding for her organization comes from both the casinos and the state of Connecticut. And she has to be extremely careful and diplomatic on the kinds of things she says about the impact of gambling in Connecticut. And yet she has been very, very courageous in speaking out in so many ways on this issue. And I want to acknowledge that. I'm just going to talk briefly about casino-type gambling in Connecticut. I lived for 21 years on the edge of the Mashantucket-Pequot Reservation in Ledyard, and having served in Congress and then seen firsthand the political maneuverings that led to the casinos and seeing firsthand their impact really led me to spend an increasing amount of time on educating people across the state, and I hope across New England, and I hope across the country on this issue. But as most of you probably know, Connecticut's casinos got going back in the 1990s. Foxwoods was opened in 1992, Mohegan Sun in 1996. And these 2 casinos with, at the time, no other competition in the entire eastern United States other than Atlantic City, quickly grew to the 2 biggest casinos in the world, not just in the United States, but in the world. And the casinos have had a very substantial impact on southeastern Connecticut. They have sharply skewed our economy toward low-paying service jobs. They have resulted in a sharp spike in the number of pathological and problem gamblers across the state of Connecticut, not simply in southeastern Connecticut. And they have had a major impact on our society, creating a pervasive gambling culture in southeastern Connecticut. And now we have, just in the last 3 months, a brand new study that has just come out, sponsored by the the Institute for American Values, a think tank in New York. And they assembled a group of scholars, and it's very, very appropriate here at Sacred Heart to talk about this study, because this is a group of 31 scholars from across America who have now made a remarkable report on the impact of the explosion of casino gambling across the United States. And I just want to share with you very, very briefly their main findings. They are remarkable. One, once a largely occasional upper-class activity, casino gambling has moved from the margins to the mainstream of American life. Today's regional casinos are different from traditional Vegas-style resort casinos that cater to well-heeled players who came from long distances away and were partial to table games. In contrast, the new casinos are primarily filled with modern, highly addictive slot machines and cater overwhelmingly to middle and low rollers who live within an hour away, return frequently, and play the slots. 3, modern slot machines have transformed American gambling. They are no longer the one-armed bandits that most of us think about when we think about the slot machines, but they become sophisticated computers, engineered to create fast, continuous, and repeat betting designed to get players to gamble longer and lose more over time. 4, casinos are predatory businesses that depend on pathological and problem gamblers for their revenue base, with these troubled individuals providing 40 to 60% of slot machine profits across the United States. 5, living close to a casino greatly increases the chances of developing a gambling addiction. Very, very important, especially in view of the proposal to put a video slots casino here in Bridgeport, as well as New Haven and Windsor Locks. 6, casinos constitute a regressive tax that hits low-income people the hardest, thereby contributing to economic inequality in America. Where have we heard this? A major issue for both the Republican and Democratic parties. In sum, according to the study, the long-term costs of the new regional casinos exceed their benefits by as much as 3 to 1. They drain wealth from communities, weaken nearby businesses, and reduce civic participation, family stability, and other forms of social capital that are at the heart of a successful community. Now, one might think that with all the new information and data on the downside of casino-type gambling across the United States, and with Connecticut's situation in which increasing saturation of casinos in the Northeast is reducing the casino revenue the state of Connecticut is receiving, one might think that the state would begin to look for other sources of revenue and begin to try to get its spending under control so it doesn't constantly work under this pressure of having to reach in every direction for new revenue. But unfortunately, as Senator McKinney is, I know, going to point out, the state of Connecticut is actually looking to replace its decreasing gambling revenue by encouraging even more gambling. Keno has been an issue. Hopefully we're on the road to repealing Keno in the state of Connecticut. But there are 2 other major issues, gambling issues, looming in the background, which could have a major impact on this state and certainly this region. One is a proposal for 3 new slots casinos for Connecticut. One in Windsor Locks, one in Bridgeport, and one in New Haven, each with 2,500 of the most advanced video slot machines. And behind that, of course, is the very, very real possibility of the legalization of online gambling in Connecticut, which a number of our political leaders have said is something that we should legalize in the state for our casinos. So this is a major issue for the state of Connecticut. It's a major issue for our legislature. It's a major issue for our state government. It's a major issue for this area. And I know you're going to be very, very interested in Senator McKinney's comments, as well as Mary Drexler's comments afterwards. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Congressman Steele, and you bring tremendous wisdom and advocacy to this issue. And we're going to have Senator John McKinney, the minority leader of the Senate, in the General Assembly. But more importantly, he has been an advocate, along with Congressman Steele, in raising the issue of gambling as a path less desired in our state, way before this issue came onto bear. When this budget was approved, this biennial budget was approved over a year and a half ago, Keno was inserted without any due process. And I think what we're seeing right now is no one wants to lay claim to it. And the fact of the matter is, it is no small part to the tremendous work of people like Bob Steele and Senator McKinney. In fact, it was Senator McKinney and Representative Larry Cafaro who raised the issue first in saying that Keno is certainly not the way we want to go. Allow me to introduce Senator John McKinney. He will share with you some of the feedback that he's gotten, and more importantly, some of the legislative process underway, not only impacting Keno, but video slots coming into Bridgeport, New Haven, and Windsor Locks, possibly, and also the potential of online gambling. Senator John McKinney.
Thank you, Tony, and thank you for your leadership. I want to. It's always an honor to be anywhere with Bob Steele, former Congressman, and Mary. Thank you for all the work you do on behalf of the people in the state of Connecticut. My reason for being here really is twofold. One is to lend my voice to the fact that March is National Problem Gambling Month. We need to make sure that people in all of our communities are aware that gambling can lead to a host of problems, financial ruin, breakup of families. And if people have problems or they have a loved one with problems, they need to reach out and seek help. And we have areas where we can help people here in the state of Connecticut. The second reason for me being here is that we really are in an important moment in gambling in the state of Connecticut. As a state legislator, I have seen our state struggle through a very difficult economy. We obviously are looking at budget deficits, and there are those who are looking for additional revenue to run the state of Connecticut. And one of the first places they look is more revenue from gambling. You look at the decrease in casino gambling revenue, and people are saying we need more gambling to keep up with the revenue. Obviously, that's a huge mistake for the state of Connecticut. We are looking at the potential of 3 significant expansions of gambling. Keno, that has been mentioned, and to my surprise but delight, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Speaker Sharkey, Senator Williams, the Senate President have all come out and indicated that they're not enamored with Keno, even though it was in the budget. And so my hope is their leadership will, working with us, who've been opposed to Keno, lead to the end of Keno before it starts. But I was surprised to hear just at a public hearing the other day that the head of the Lottery Commission is continuing to fight for an expansion of Keno. Why he would do that is quite frankly beyond me, and I'm going to make sure I have a conversation with him. The other 2 areas that we need to be very concerned about are the slots that are proposed for 3 places in the state of Connecticut that Bob Steele mentioned, and the potential of online gambling expansion. We know the problems and the addiction of gambling when people go to the casinos, and Bob Steele talked about the new casinos and how they target people differently than they used to. Imagine the ability of people to go online in their homes, on their laptops, on their smartphones, right there, and engage in gambling. We will see an expansion of gambling-related problems that we've never even imagined if we were to allow that to happen. We know that the expansion of gambling is bad economics for the state of Connecticut. And now that we've seen the studies, the proof is in. When you put in a Foxwoods and a Mohegan Sun, area retailers, area restaurants go out of business because they can no longer compete. It hurts small businesses, it hurts the towns around there, and long term, it's a loser for the state of Connecticut. So we need to be very vigilant to say to our leaders in Hartford, we don't want more gambling in the state of Connecticut. We also need to say we need more help for the people who are on the front lines of fighting the gambling addiction. What is so disappointing to me is that in all of the proposals to expand gambling, nowhere do they really consider the negative impacts of gambling. No one disputes that, yet when it comes time to put in a bill to expand gambling, they don't also come with an equal amount of necessary funds to help those who deal with the problems of gambling addiction for those who end up being addicted. So this is an important month. We need to get the word out, and I appreciate all the work that you guys do in getting the word out, but we need to be very vigilant that we put an end to the potential of expansion gambling in the state of Connecticut. If we can do it now with a loud voice, hopefully those who want to look at it will look at it in other states and leave Connecticut alone. So, Tony, thank you very much for putting this together, and I look forward to working with you this session.
Thank you. Thank you. You've heard from a former congressman. You've heard from an active legislative leader in our General Assembly. But all of our conversations have focused on people making laws that are going to impact the lives of people. Mary Drexler is on the front line of working with the people that have been devastated, impacted by gambling. And what she is going to bring to this conversation is a human face to this discussion of being on the front lines, of helping people go through the issue of addiction and picking up the aftermaths that Senator McKinney talks about, that we don't do a good enough job. So Mary, please share with us your experience, and more importantly, some of the survey results that have just come across the board in regards to how problematic addiction of gambling is all about in our community, and that it is tremendously important for us to be careful in the path that we choose. Mary Drexler.
I want to start by thanking you all for inviting me here today. It is very important to us to be a part of this conversation. Obviously, we are on the front lines here. I am especially pleased that we're doing this during National Problem Gambling Awareness Month. In past, it's only been a week that has been designated on a national level. Nationally, we are now on a month, and I think we would probably be doing this all year long and should continue to be doing this all year long. We are one of 35 state affiliates. We were the very first state affiliate of the National Council on Problem Gambling. And although the council has a neutral stance on the current legalized gambling in the state, it does matter to us, and we do consider any new types of expansion of gambling, that we look at what those social costs will be. And we want them to be seriously considered. I think it's very important to us that if we're going to even be talking about expansion, what are we doing to be prepared for any type of expansion? We're in a time period in which states are looking to increase their dependence on revenue through legalized gambling. The fiscal crises of states have lessened concern about the inevitable negative consequences of new gambling. Assuming that benefits will be great and costs will be minor without the data on which to base this decision to expand gambling is not fulfilling the government's duty to protect the public. With budget deficits, it seems that some legislators are more focused on profit projections from expanding gambling and less focused on the social and emotional costs to individuals, family, the workplace, and the communities in which we all live. Some of the social costs may include divorce, bankruptcy, foreclosures, loss of employment, and incarceration. Some emotional costs may be anxiety, depression, panic disorder, and possibly suicide. Gambling is the addiction with the highest rate of suicide, and I'm not sure that many people realize that. It's devastating, financial loss, there's isolation, there is relationship being destroyed, and those are all very much the risk factors for taking one's own life. Thus far in Connecticut, electronic gambling has only been available on the tribal casinos. If Keno were to become available in communities across Connecticut, problem in underage gambling will increase, as that has happened in other states across the country. For example, in the state of Ohio, youth have been known to participate in Keno parties where underage gambling and drinking has taken place. Government often focuses on gambling's recreational and financial benefits. It needs to focus on the social costs as well. To date, there is no government-sponsored study in Connecticut that has measured the true extent of social costs versus benefits. The Connecticut Council is not aware of any governmental proposal to address the issue of problem gambling based on the findings of a 2008 Spectrum study that was paid for by the state of Connecticut. The results of that study should have been used by legislature to collaborate with experts in the field of problem gambling here in Connecticut. And we should be following through on those recommendations. It's also time for another study. According to legislation, that study to look at what the impact on those social costs should be every 5 years. So we have fallen short on our responsibility of 2,500 slots to 3 different locations here in Connecticut. But if this was to occur, there'd need to be prevention programs for our most vulnerable populations, especially in cities, New Haven, Bridgeport, even Windsor Locks, awareness and education through all our media outlets, education and training for pari-mutuel employees, and youth service providers. To get into the off-track betting sites right now, it's 18 years of age. Slots have been 21 years of age, so it is an issue that we are concerned about. According to the 2008 state-sponsored Spectrum Gaming Report, the association between the availability of gambling and increased problem gambling has been well documented in the scientific legislature. Expansion of gambling in the state also presents a difficult challenge for recovering problem gamblers. With both the introduction of the video lottery terminals and possibly Keno in various venues statewide, the individual in recovery will also be continually subjected to another form of gambling, even if they try to go out to dinner with their families. So if you've self-excluded from the casino, but trying to stay away from the gambling or away from the convenience stores, now if you just want to go out to eat, you're also impacted by the gambling. And in regards to online gambling, which was recently passed in New Jersey, it's highly likely that proponents of online gambling in Connecticut are preparing to make their case at this point. It is vital now that a comprehensive process be set in place with regard to evaluating any proposal to place electronic gambling across Connecticut. So in summary, well-planned evaluation is needed prior to the expansion of gambling in Connecticut to measure impact on youth and possible resulting increase in problem gambling. The expertise required to conduct such studies is available in Connecticut to the council and other experts. I am pleased that we had the opportunity, at least on introducing slots into the OTBs, to have some public testimony, which did not occur with Keno. So we were able to share our concerns on what would happen on the prevention, education, awareness, and treatment end, and we were heard. It's important to emphasize that we've never advocated the rejection of any of the forms of legalized gambling discussed above because of our neutrality, but that doesn't mean we don't take the serious cost if someone's looking at expansion of gambling. And whether or not Keno, video lottery terminals, or online gambling are legalized, current funding right now for problem and underage gambling services is really insufficient. Of the money that comes into the state, we do not receive a whole lot of money at the Connecticut Council on Problem Gambling for that prevention, education, awareness, and research. Nor does the treatment piece get what it needs if we were to promote more that these services are available. So I would appreciate lawmakers becoming more educated about the correlation between increased legalized gambling opportunities and the increase in problem and underage gambling. I want to stress, if you see behind me, our 1-800-789-7777. That is our helpline number, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We also now have chat. So if you go to our website, problemgambling.org, and go to Get Any Help, you will see the hours that chat is available. And last month we launched text, so you can get more information on that, so we can reach out to a generation that grew up on this electronic technical environment. So I urge you to please visit our website to let people know about the services available to them. And again, I want to thank everybody for allowing me to speak here today, and I look forward to hopefully helping more people with issues of problem.
Thank you, Mary. One of the biggest concerns that I have with video slots, and you raised it, in online gambling is the data point seems to point on the growth of youth gambling and seniors. Can you elaborate a little bit more of those areas of concern? They seem to be the most vulnerable. Now, with the onset of videos and the advent of using games like, you could literally put Angry Bird and Candy Crush, which is a game that kids know and write on a computer. If you put a dollar denomination on it, that's gambling.
Yes.
So can you share with us, in the public, what susceptible population would be impacted?
Yeah, we are actually working as young as middle and high school right now because of just gaming online. With such games as Angry Bird or Farmville, I think is another one, where you're not actually utilizing money, but you're still purchasing. In some of these games, you're actually purchasing to get more discs to keep playing.
And I'm respecting those games,
Yeah.
just citing as an
Yes.
example,
Yeah,
no reference at all.
No reference at all, but games such as that, they do have that addictive quality, that electronic, and that leads to, as you get older, or as you're able to play, those machines mesmerize you. It's trance-like. Sitting in front of them, having rewards almost instantly, almost immediately. As with Keno, that game runs every 2 to 5 minutes. So you're almost getting an instant gratification, which is all the more enticing to someone who's playing the games. And for youth that have grown up in a generation of this electronic gaming, it's just mesmerizing. It used to be that when I turned 21, I went to the nearest local bar and gave them some business. Now when you turn 21 in Connecticut, children I know, it's the casinos where I can not only drink, but I can gamble as well. And a lot of the, places are in proximity to the casinos, a lot of our college campuses. And again, it's 21 to get into the casinos. They do their very best not to make sure that nobody under 21 gets on the floor. They're very good about that. But again, you introduce things into the OTBs, it can be harder to regulate that at the age of 18. So there's a lot of things that we could be doing, and I think part of it is when you're introducing stuff, a population, we really need to educate our parents. Because if the state is expanding on gambling or saying that this is okay, most parents are going to say, well, if it's here, it must be okay. We voted this in, without the education on this is not intended for our youth or for young adults. The younger you start gambling, the more apt you are to have a gambling problem later on in life. Males are much more apt at a younger age to begin the gambling. However, females start gambling at a later age and see more problems in their 40s and 50s. And older adults, there are many that will spend their retirement checks. They get their check and they're at the casinos. It's a place for many of them that start out as recreational. They want to go, they want to be in a social atmosphere, they want to be around people, but it can become addictive very quickly. And people need to understand what they can do to gamble responsibly.
Well, I mean, when you talk about the senior aspect and starting with recreation, and there's incredible fraud, incredible abuses, and a lot of people benignly look at Keno and say, look, this is bingo. But the fact of the matter is, it is electronic, it is enticing, it's intoxicating, and it's been shown to engage in people. Now, Congressman Steele, I think you cited one of the books that I've actually started reading, Designed for Addiction, talking about the business of enhancing and growing gambling revenue. Talk about what the design of these gambling organizations to look at videos and the entrancing, intoxicating aspect of the video appeal. Talk about that and how the business model of gambling is specifically targeting that arena of growth.
Well, to Mary's point about kids today being technologically primed for online gambling, that is of enormous concern to everyone I know, like Mary, who is in this field. We're just creating enormous future problems for us. As far as the book Tony was mentioned, there is a new book by a brilliant professor at MIT by the name of Natasha Schul. She worked for over 10 years on this book. The title is Addiction by Design. And the book goes into dramatic detail about how today's slot machines are the result of exhaustive corporate research, millions of dollars of money poured into designing the most addictive possible kinds of gambling machines. And then the idea of our state or the government using these machines to squeeze money out of its citizens is, at the very least, unethical. But it holds enormous problems for our young people, and I think we have to be very concerned about it. Foxwoods just in the last month launched a new platform, online gambling platform, in anticipation of of the state of Connecticut legalizing online gambling. So it's very, very much out there, and it's something we're going to have to really focus on here in the next year ahead. And that's why it is so important we've got these two guys here up in Hartford.
I just wanted to add one thing. One very important thing is last year in May of 2013, I have to get my years right, finally in the Diagnostic Statistical Manual, which is the DSM-5 we often refer to, gambling, which had always been listed as just an impulse control disorder, is now seen as behavioral addiction. That has taken us years to accomplish, because it's always seen as the hidden addiction. You can't see the results of someone who, you don't wear it because you've been drinking, you don't see it in someone's face necessarily. So this is a big step, because to date, we have no access to federal monies because it hasn't been recognized as an addiction. And we're fighting hard at the national level so that the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration starts to look at us as a full-fledged addiction, so people who need help get it.
And in closing, I think I want to rephrase the number. It's 1-888-789-7777. It is a resource. It is a lifeline.
And these are people who know the addiction, can help you. And even in our office, if you call that number and you want to talk to someone in recovery, we have the person in recovery who works for us. They'll help you get through the process. So I want to, again, thank you both for having this press conference. Representative Hwang and also Senator McKinney, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I want to close by thanking Congressman Steele for his long-term service to our state, but also his tireless passion in raising this awareness and education of our community. I want to thank Mary for her great work and all of her staff. Yes. You have a small staff of 7 that covers the entire state.
And actually only 5 go out of the building. And
so a compliment to you, and you have our support. But I also want to thank Senator McKinney, who has been on the forefront of this issue in not allowing it to simply go on as business as usual, because it is important to understand that as legislators, we not only have a responsibility to legislate, but we have a responsibility to care for our community, to ensure that it has the richness and the fulfillment, and not the desperation and sadness that gambling addiction can cause. So thank you for being here. Have a great day.